few days ago, OpenAI released two new models, o3 and o4-mini. Not to confuse this with GPT-4o, by the way, which should also not be confused with GPT 4.0. Anyways, they claim that these are their smartest and most capable models to date with full tool access. I'll go over what this means in a second. Now, instead of jumping on the hype train immediately, I spent the past few days testing it out to see exactly how good or bad these are. So in this video, I'm going to go over some really cool things you can do with it, plus we'll go over its specs, performance, and benchmark scores compared to other leading AI models. Let's jump right in. First of all, there are subtle differences between o3 and o4-mini. So here it says o3 is our most powerful reasoning model that pushes the frontier across coding, math, science, visual perception, and more. Whereas o4-mini is a smaller model optimized for fast, cost-efficient reasoning. It's also good at math coding and visual tasks. So if you're looking for a smaller, more efficient model, then o4-mini would be your best bet. But if you're looking for quality and performance, then at least for now, o3 performs slightly better. Now, honestly, as you use the best AI models out there, you'll find that, at least for regular tasks like writing or teaching you stuff or coding basic stuff, then all of them can do it very well. But one of the coolest features about both these models is they were trained to use tools through reinforcement learning. So both of them have agentic tool use capabilities. In other words, depending on the task, they can autonomously pick and use a variety of different tools and agents to help them solve the task. For example, it can direct one agent to search the web and find information, another agent to scrape data, or maybe a coding agent to help you code up a project. Now, one of these tools that is particularly interesting is their image analysis tool. So let me show you an example right now. So on ChatGPT, at the top model dropdown here, I'm going to select o3. I'm going to use o3 for most of my tests in this video because this is slightly more performant than o4-mini. And then I'm going to paste this image in here. So let me just show you this image real quick. It's just a blurry phone photo of a menu of a restaurant I went to. Note that nowhere in this image does it say the restaurant name or location. At least for me, all I know is this is a Greek restaurant. So I'm going to paste the photo in here and then I'm going to write what's the restaurant name and where is this. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so it thought for 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So here's its step-by-step process. Like I said, it's really good at agentic tool use. So it's first using this agent to analyze the image. And it's also zooming in and cropping the image further to see if it can get more information. So you can see it's zooming in to the top of the page, and it has identified that the icon at the top might say this or this. It's not 100% sure. By the way, this is not the restaurant logo or name. All right, so after further analysis, it has identified that this word should spell this, which is a type of Greek dish. And then it proceeds to check further. And then here you can see it's using some code, it looks like Python, to crop the image further for analysis. It's also analyzing the bottom of the image to see if there's any watermark or location details, but it couldn't find anything. And here it says, since there is no address listed, I might need to look up some of the unique items mentioned on the menu. So next, it's using this agent to search the web. And by the way, it can deploy and use multiple agents in parallel. In other words, get a ton of them to do stuff at the same time. This makes it super fast and productive. So it's first searching the web with this search term, but those results so far have not been helpful. So next up, it proceeds to search this on the web. And then here it says the search results show this restaurant, which is correct, by the way. And then it says the menu categories match perfectly with the menu we're looking at. And then next, it's searching TripAdvisor further, and it has verified that the menu matches the items and prices exactly with our photo. And indeed, here is our final answer. That menu belongs to this restaurant in Vancouver, Canada. How insane is that? Let me just pull up the original menu for you. Notice that nowhere on this menu does it say the actual restaurant name or location details. All right, here's my next test. I want to get it to solve a maze. So I'm going to upload this image where the entrance is over here at the red dot, and then the exit is over here. So again, I'm going to pick O3 for this task. I'm going to upload the photo of the maze, and then I'm going to write solve this maze, start from the red dot and exit at the blue dot. Show me the path in red. Alright, so here's its response. First, to solve a maze, it has decided to use this tool to execute some Python code, which would first load up the image, and then it looks like it's separating these by color so it can identify the red dot and the blue dot, as you can see here and here. So this would signify the entrance and the exit. And then once it has found the locations of the colored dots, then it's using this BFS algorithm to find the shortest path. So again, it's executing some additional Python code, and then, aha, I found the path. Now I'll need to reconstruct it. So next, it's proceeding to use Python to draw out the path. And then, so it's executing this step, and then here is our solution. So let me expand this, and you sly little rascal. Look at you pulling tricks like that. So indeed, it did find the shortest path, which was just to not even enter the maze and then just go around the maze to get to the blue dot, which is kind of correct. I mean, I did not tell it to actually enter and go through the maze in the prompt. All right, so here's a better example where it can't really exit the maze. So the entrance is over here and the exit is over here. So first I uploaded this image, and then the prompt is solve this maze, start from the lower left corner and exit at the upper right corner. Show me the path in red. And here's its thinking process. Again, it's using Python to import the image, and then next it's proceeding to binarize the image, in other words, to convert this image to completely black or white pixels. So after it's doing that, it needs to solve the maze by the user. And then next, it's performing this BFS step again to figure out the shortest path from the entrance to the exit. And so after executing a ton of code, here it says the path has been traced. It's 11,000 pixels long. I'll now draw the path on the original image. I'll overlay it in red. So again, it's executing some additional Python code to draw out the path. And then here's our result. And upon my really quick initial inspection, it does look like the answer is correct. It's not like traversing any walls, but the red line seems too thin and hard to follow. So next I wrote make the red line thicker, and afterwards it gave me the same maze, but this time it did make the red line thicker. Now if we inspect this, it does seem to have solved this maze. So super impressive. Note that all of this took around 51 seconds only. Like if I just showed you this image, I'm sure most humans out there would take longer than 51 seconds to solve this. So super impressive. Alright, in my next example, I uploaded this photo of a ship that is sailing through Hong Kong. And this is quite a blurry image. There's not a lot of details except for this flag over here and then this Nord logo. And it's pretty hard to tell that this is Hong Kong. I mean, this could look like any city. So again, a pretty amateur normal photo with not a lot of details or clues. And then I'm going to prompt it with what's the model of this ship, who's the owner, and where is it now? The crazy thing is it only thought for 35 seconds. So this is blazing fast. Here it says the yacht shown appears to be Yacht, which was originally named Project Opus. It is owned by Russian billionaire Mordashov, which is correct. And then to identify its current location, I'm planning to search the web. So next it's using this web search agent to search these key terms: Yacht super yacht, current location April 2025. Where is Yacht now? And here it says the last known port call was Port Victoria, Seychelles on January. So it's likely near there. Next, it's going to search for March and April 2025 to see if there's any more updated news. And then it couldn't really find anything, so it needs to find more current data. So next it's proceeding to do additional web searches. So the latest AIS data, this is like the GPS data of the ship. This is from 73 days ago in the East Africa region. So the yacht's current location remains uncertain. The last known position was off of this port. There are reports of it being photographed on March 10th. And then it's going to this page to confirm the photograph. So finally, here's our answer. Here's the vessel model and name. And here is the owner, which is correct. And then here is information about its current location. So it was last photographed on March 10th. And it even says because Nord frequently disables AIS to avoid tracking, no newer public signal has appeared since mid-February. Unless she has quietly sailed with AIS off, the best open source information places her still in or very near the Seychelles today. Very nice. Now, this is a ton of information, a ton of research, but it did all of this in just 35 seconds. Absolutely incredible. All right, next, here's a photo a friend took last year on a hike. Again, if I just expand this photo for you, it's a pretty normal photo of this nice landscape with not a lot of clues on where the hell this is. This looks like just a regular mountain with trees, and then there's a road over here. So I'm gonna write, give me the exact location of this. And note that for all the photos I upload to ChatGPT for this test, I removed all metadata or EXIF data or anything like that. This time it took a bit longer, but this is already pretty crazy. For the first comment it wrote, it already got it pretty correct. So this is indeed a coastal highway along the sea to sky highway between Vancouver and Squamish. And then it's now searching the web for such photos to see if there are any similar photos to this. By the way, this is a private photo, so it can't just do a reverse Google image search to find this. And because this is like a lookout point, it also has to figure out the specific viewpoint in the image. So it knows off the bat that there's a Tantalus lookout near this lake, but that seems to face the range in the north, etc., etc. So it's searching for more information about where the viewpoint specifically is located. Next, it's even searching for all these hiking trail websites to find if there are any viewpoints near hiking trails that perhaps look similar to this. And then it's pulling up this image analysis agent to analyze the image further. Here it says the vantage seems to be from a higher view, possibly a pull-out viewpoint or a hiking spot. The user might want coordinates, so it even gave me coordinates, etc., etc. And then it's proceeding to search for more images to make sure that it is aligned with the viewpoint that it estimates. So after a ton of different research, here's the information it gathered. It even searches on the government website and also this website to find GPS coordinates. And then afterwards, here is the response. So the spot is a lookout just north of Porto Cove Provincial Park. And here are the coordinates. So if I input this into Google Maps, this looks pretty correct to me. This is indeed the lookout point of this view. Plus it even gives me more info about the nearby islands and mountains in the photo. Now, before you get too mind blown by this, actually a lot of the top AI models can also do this. In other words, can also guess the location of a photo. So for example, I plug this into Google's 2.5 Pro and it can also give me roughly the same location. So this isn't like a mind-blowing moment for me. And actually, there's this leaderboard by DeepGuesser, which tests the top AI model's accuracy in guessing the location of photos. And interestingly, OpenAI's o1 has the highest score, followed by Gemini 2.5 Pro, and o3 is in third place. So it's actually not as good as these two models at Geoguessing. And then o4-mini is all the way down here in 12th place. Now, because of its agentic tool use capabilities, it can actually use GPT-4o to create images. Now, of course, you could go to Sora and generate individual images one by one, but what if you want to make a storyboard or multiple pages of a comic book? Or what if you want to generate multiple layers in one image? Sora doesn't really support that kind of workflow in one step, but with o3, you can simply prompt it to generate multiple images at once, making the whole process much more efficient. Here's an example. So the prompt is, make a children's storybook with 5 pages. Each page should have short text and cute illustrations. The pages should be coherent. Generate an image as the entire page. So here's its thinking process. So afterwards, it proceeds to use 4o's image generator to generate each page. So here's the first page. Here is page 2. Here's page 3. You can see page is spelled incorrectly here. And then here's page 4. And finally, page 5. So notice that overall, it does kind of preserve the same style and character consistency across the entire storybook. Although for the last page, it did turn her fur gray for some reason, but we can always prompt it again to revise this page. Let me tell you about this awesome tool called ChatLLM by our sponsor, Abacus AI. You can use the best AI models all in one platform, including O3 High, o4-mini High, and Gemini 2.5 Pro. Plus, they have a new Route LLM feature, which automatically picks the best LLM to use based on your prompt. You can also generate images right from the chatbot, plus you can even generate videos with a single prompt. Plus, it has a really cool artifacts feature, so if you're coding or building something with it, it allows you to view and interact with the app side by side. They also have a new coding tool called CodeLLM. This works exactly like VS Code, but it's supercharged with AI. You can chat with an AI on the side to help you generate or edit code, or you can even press tab to autocomplete code. This allows you to code way faster. This is a really powerful way for you to use the best AI models out there all in one platform. Try it out via the link in the description below. One thing to note about the 4o image generator is that it can create transparent images. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about all the incredible things you can do with GPT-4o, definitely see this video if you haven't already. Anyways, back to this, let's try to get it to create a file with multiple image layers. So the prompt is, using your image generator, make the following photo. A layered design of a futuristic cyberpunk city skyline at sunset. Include the following layers separately. Background sky with a sunset gradient, distant cityscape silhouettes, foreground buildings, and people walking in the foreground. Give me all the layers in a TIFF file. Alright, so here is the first image, here's the second image, notice that it is transparent, here's the third image, and here's the fourth image of people walking in the foreground. So I'm going to download this TIFF, and if we open this TIFF file in an image editor, then here's what we get, and here are the individual layers. How awesome is that? And because these are separate layers, you can edit each one individually. So for example, let's change the opacity of the background of skyscrapers into something like this. And let me also move this around. I think it looks better like this. Okay, and then for the foreground city buildings, let me also move this around, and then I'm also going to change the brightness and contrast. Okay, this looks pretty good. And then for the humans in the foreground, I'm also going to make them, let's make them a bit darker, and then I'm going to position them like this. And here we go. Here is our layered image. Note that this is only possible with O3. Note that with Sora or just the regular ChatGPT, it can't give you one TIFF file with multiple image layers. So this is another useful application of O3. Now, because of its ability to analyze and generate images, and because it's pretty good at coding, I wanted to try this. So here I uploaded a rough sketch of a house, and I wanted it to make an OpenSCAD 3D model of this house. So here's its thinking process, and then it gave me this OpenSCAD code. So let me open this up, and I'm just going to copy this code and paste it in an SCAD viewer. Here's the result, and unfortunately, it's not even close to the sketch that I uploaded. It doesn't even look like a house. So not an impressive generation. Whereas if I do the same thing with Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, it was able to give me a much better looking generation in just one go. Now, because its visual analysis capabilities are so good, I also tried getting it to analyze stock charts to see if it can predict the price movement. So here I've uploaded a chart of Nvidia where the cutoff is February 20th. And then I wrote, here's an imaginary stock ticker chart. Predict what would the price be in 1 month with confidence intervals. Give me a full report explaining your reasoning. So here's its thinking process. It seems to use Python to analyze the stock ticker data, and it even gave me a price distribution prediction after 1 month using 50,000 Monte Carlo simulations. These are like paths it could take based on current known data. So it did some pretty intensive calculations. And then here's the executive summary. Current price is this. Statistical 1 month forecast is $151 plus or minus 7%. Here's the 90% confidence band. So it's 130 and 173. What I had to work with. So here it's explaining how it analyzed the stock chart I gave it. And from that, it calculated other metrics like daily drift and daily volatility. Plus, it made this forecast engine with this geometric Brownian motion formula. And then it simulated 50,000 Monte Carlo paths. These are some pretty insane calculations. And then here are more explanations. And then here's the bottom line. Likely in 1 month, the outcome is 151 with a reasonable range of 130 and 173. Treat these as directional probabilities, but not price guarantees. So here's the thing. I intentionally gave it this because right after this date, we've seen a huge crash in the stock price. So I fed it data up to here, February 20th. After 1 month, that would be like March 30th, something like that. And the price of this is 111. Which is not within the range that it predicted. So unfortunately, it was not able to get this correct. However, notice that this is a tricky example. I fed it a chart right up to here, right before it started crashing. And I really wanted to see if it could somehow predict the crash, but unfortunately, it could not do that. It's not that amazing yet. Now, because it's so good and efficient at searching the web, let's see if I could get a free meal or at least a discount on Uber Eats. Let's try this prompt. Find recent working promo codes for Uber Eats in Seattle, Washington. Alright, so here's its thought process. It proceeds to search the web for Uber Eats promo code April 2025 Seattle, and then notice again, it can deploy multiple agents at the same time. So it's handling this search really quickly. And then it's searching for even more sources and even more sources. Basically, it's doing a ton of research and scraping a ton of data. And afterwards, here is the answer with a table of all the codes, plus if it's for new users only or existing users. So here's the code, here is the discount, and let's actually try some of these right now. All right, I'm gonna split screen this so you can see the chat with the codes side by side. Let's enter the promo code here and see if this works. Now, unfortunately, as you can see here, even though I'm trying these codes out with a new Uber Eats account, none of these codes seem to work. It keeps telling me that the code is not valid. Even though this data table was really nice and informative, all these codes don't actually work. We'll talk more about hallucinations and fact-checking in a second. Next, I also tested o3 and o4-mini on some coding tasks, but they were quite lackluster compared to Gemini 2.5 Pro. And don't get me wrong, both o3 and o4-mini are still super impressive. They are state-of-the-art, but they're just not noticeably better compared to Gemini 2.5 Pro in terms of coding. So for example, here I tried to get it to make a 3D night sky viewer. So the prompt is create an interactive view of the night sky with the top 20 constellations. Include labels and make it interactive. So here's the code that it gave me. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it in an HTML file and then open it up on my browser. However, once I do that, it's not running anything, and when I open the console log, it looks like there is an error. So it doesn't seem like it could generate a working example, and I tried this prompt 3 times as well. For all 3 times, I just get a blank page. Note that Gemini 2.5 Pro could get this immediately, in just one go. Here's another coding example where I prompted it to generate a bee colony. So the prompt is simulate a bee colony collecting pollen from flowers, include many adjustable settings, include stunning visuals, make it interactive and educational. Use p5.js, put everything in a standalone HTML file. Afterwards, it gave me this code, which if I open the HTML, it looks like this. Pretty cool. So here is the number of bees. I can adjust this to even more bees, and then flowers, I can adjust this to add even more flowers to the animation, and then for bee speed, I can increase the bee speed, and it does look like they are flying faster. The pollen capacity is like how much pollen each flower has. I love how all these flowers are color-coded. So if the flower is full of pollen, then it's yellow, and then as the bee starts harvesting the pollen, then the flowers slowly fade to pink. Very cool. And then the flower regenerate, if we increase this, I believe they will start to generate pollen faster. And then I can also click on the canvas to add a flower. Let me try that right now. Let me click on here, and yes, indeed, it adds a flower. So this is perfect. It's fully functional, all the settings work. and it's very beautifully animated. For your reference, here is Gemini 2.5 Pro's example. I would say both of them look pretty good. It's hard to pick a winner here. Both of them are definitely capable of coding complex interactive animations like this. Alright, so that sums up some cool use cases with O3 and O4-mini. It can pull from a ton of different tools at its disposal, such as analyzing images or searching the web. Next, let's look at its performance and benchmarks. So here are their self-reported benchmarks. Interestingly, even though overall O3 is slightly more performant than O4-mini, at least in terms of competitive math and coding, O4-mini actually performs slightly better than O3, as you can see here. Notice also that the max you can get for the AIME benchmark is 100%, so we are really close to saturating this benchmark already. Also note that for competitive coding, this is a huge jump by over 700 ELO points compared to O1 and O3-mini. So it's particularly impressive in terms of competitive coding. In terms of graduate level science questions, the improvement isn't as much. And then here are some benchmark scores for visual reasoning and problem solving. Specifically in terms of analyzing scientific figures, both O3 and O4-mini show a huge improvement by around 20% compared with O1. In terms of software engineering, here is Swebench, and again a huge improvement by around 20% for both models compared with O1 and O3-mini. Here are some benchmarks for instruction following and agentic tool use, and again huge improvements over the predecessors. Now, one thing to note is that these are just their self-reported benchmarks. They're only comparing O3 and O4-mini with OpenAI's previous models. But what about other competitors, such as Google's insane Gemini 2.5 Pro? Well, let's look at some other independent leaderboards. So here is one by Artificial Analysis. If you look at their intelligence index, then both O3 and O4-mini High are indeed ranked at the top place, just 2 points ahead of Gemini 2.5 Pro. So they are kind of the most intelligent or performant models out there, but just by a really small margin. Now, if you look at the price, note that O3 is ridiculously expensive at $17 per million tokens. Note that Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way over here at $3.4, and if you want a more efficient but slightly less performant model, then O4-mini High is over here. Here's a really cool benchmark called Creative Writing, which, as the name implies, tests how good AI models are at creative writing. And here, O3 is now number 1, followed by DeepSeek R1, and then GPT-4o. Interestingly, Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way down here, so not too good in terms of creative writing. Here's another noteworthy benchmark. So it's called Fiction Live Bench, and this tests the AI model's ability to analyze and remember a lot of information at once. So here it's getting the AI to analyze stories over 120 words in length. And note that O3 scores 100% accuracy. So even if you input a ton of documents or an entire novel or a small or medium-sized code base, then O3 is actually really good at analyzing and remembering everything and giving you an accurate answer. Note that Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way over here with 90% accuracy. And then O4-mini is a lot less performant. It only scores 62.5% of the time correct. And then here's another benchmark called Live Bench by the sponsor of this video, Abacus AI. And here, indeed, O3 and O4-mini High are ranked higher than Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro. For O3, it outperforms Gemini 2.5 Pro in terms of reasoning, coding, and language. However, in terms of mathematics, note that it still underperforms Gemini 2.5 Pro, as well as for data analysis. Now, if you look at this leaderboard called Math Arena, which ranks the models based on its ability to do competitive math, then O4-mini High scores the highest with an average score of 89%, followed by Gemini 2.5 Pro with 86%, and then O3 High with 85%. So these are definitely the smartest, most performant models we have right now. Now, as we prompt these AI models to do some really deep research and scrape the web and find a lot of information for you, we also want to see how accurate this information actually is. How factually correct is this? So here's another benchmark by Vectera. which looks at the hallucination rates of the top AI models. Interestingly, o3, o4-mini, and Gemini 2.5 Pro are not in the top 3 spots. So the top one seems to be Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash. It has a hallucination rate of 0.7%. And then Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way here at 1.1%. And then where the hell is o3? And the crazy thing is OpenAI's o3 is all the way down here at 6.8%. This is even worse than GPT-4 apparently. o4-mini does slightly better with 4.6% hallucination, but it's still pretty bad. Like, I wouldn't want the AI model to give me incorrect answers 4.6% of the time. So that's another thing to note, is that at least according to this benchmark, the hallucination rates of both these models are pretty shocking. Finally, let's go over its availability. So here it says, Plus, Pro, and Team users will see o3, o4-mini, and o4-mini High in the model selector starting today. And then Enterprise and Education users will gain access in 1 week. Now, if you're a free user, you can still try o4-mini by selecting Think in the Composer before submitting your query. I believe what they meant was this reason feature. So if you toggle this on, then you would be using o4-mini. The really exciting thing is, here it says they're going to release o3 Pro in a few weeks with full tool support, which in theory should be even better than just the current o3. And then both o3 and o4-mini models are available to developers today via the API. Anyways, that sums up my review on o3 and o4-mini. Hope this gives you a sense of what it can and cannot do. As you can see, it can use different tools and agents to carry out a task like searching the web, generating images, analyzing images, and writing code. So there are a lot of useful applications for this. However, at least in terms of coding, it's not like way better than Gemini 2.5 Pro. I would say they're around the same. Plus, it does hallucinate a lot, apparently over 6% of the time, which is not ideal. So keep in mind if you're using this for researching important materials. You might need to fact check everything it writes afterwards. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this. And if you've had a chance to use o3 or o4-mini in the past few days, what was your experience with it so far? What other cool or impressive things were you able to get it to do? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.